The landmark Yoorrook Justice Commission is preparing to hand down its final report after more than 4 years of extraordinary evidence. The Indigenous-led and designed truth-telling inquiry has spent years collecting testimony from hundreds of First Nations and non-Indigenous people, revealing the scale of atrocities and the failure of governments to reckon with the past. Four Corners was last night given extensive access to the nation's first truth-telling inquiry. The Commission has broad powers similar to that of a royal commission to compel politicians and bureaucrats to be questioned, and it's collected thousands of documents of evidence. In June, it'll issue a final blueprint to redressing injustices in education, health, housing and the theft of land and water. To tell us more is the Deputy Chair of the Yoorrook Commission, Sue-Ann Hunter, who joins us from Melbourne. Good morning, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Commissioner, tell me, how have you reacted to the testimony over these last 4 years?
Look, it's been a long 4 years. It's deeply moving. I think what I have to say is it's actually not about me or the other commissioners. It's actually about those that have come forward to tell their truths, to tell their stories. It's just the biggest honour to be able to bear witness and hold space for these truths that sometimes are really hard to hear and listen to, but need to be told.
And I read somewhere that you see yourself as a facilitator of making that space to help people to tell their stories. That must be quite a weight.
Look, it is a weight, but what an honour who gets to hear these stories and sit with people across the state in kitchens, outside, inside, sit through ceremonies and bear witness and hear and hold space for people that need to tell their stories. That I figured it's a different kind of listening within this. It's listening for a reason, for justice, and that's what we are, a Truth and Justice Commission.
Yeah, and in holding that space, what's most resonated with you?
Oh, I think it's that people just want to be heard. Also, that people have come forward and they're very generous and they've said, you've probably heard this, but we haven't heard their story. We haven't heard their individual story, which makes it so unique. I think our mob are very generous and they continue to fight and tell their stories. Now, these stories, we don't want just to sit there. This is the truth of this state, and people need to hear them and listen deeply to what's being said. And
I want to get into a little bit more of that in a moment, but what has it taught you about the power of both being able to speak your truth and to be listened to?
Oh, I think humanity is the biggest thing, being able to, we've cried with people, and all commissioners, the whole five would tell you this, we've cried with people, we've laughed with people, we've held hands, lots of hugs along the way. It's amazing, and I think one of my examples is when an auntie told me a story and then gave me a hug and said, "Bub, that's yours now." And when I rang and checked in the next day, she said, "Don't be ringing me. That's yours now to hold and help move forward." So she felt like a burden was lifted. And in being a social worker, you think it's quite complex of how people heal, but sometimes it's just the spoken word that people say.
Yeah, I suspect your long experience in social work has come in handy in being able to help people to navigate those moments and also to then navigate that yourself.
Oh, it really has. It's been being able to keep myself well in the moments that have been really difficult. But I think it's strengthened me as a person, and I'm astounded at the generosity of our people, being able to share their stories so that everybody can hear them, so that people can either go through the website or, and get online and hear the hearings. But being able for them to share it so people can hear what has happened in the past, so we can sort of have some sort of reconcile with the past in this state.
I mentioned at the top about the Four Corners episode that was given a pretty extraordinary access, and my colleague Bridget Brennan, I think, did an exceptional job in navigating the complexity of what was some of those hearings. What really resonated with me was about people that kept saying over and over again to the Commission, we didn't know this happened. We didn't know about this story. I think the Premier, in fact, said she was sitting in her backyard reading some of the testimony and said, "I didn't know this happened not far from the very place I was sitting." It really has exposed just how little of our collective national story is known.
Look, I agree with that, and it's not just the Premier, it's a lot of people. I think we, as a commission, can get these stories out there so people understand, and I think there's a bigger thing in this. Once you know, and once you understand how the past reaches into the future, you can't turn a blind eye to it. And how do we bring those together for black and white and the broader community to come together to build a much better future in this state for the generations to come? And that's part of the reason we do this, because we want future generations to be able to know and understand, reconcile with it and move forward, because that's the only way we can move forward in this state.
Yeah, that strong focus on healing. And Commissioner, there are two documents, two components really of the report that you're going to be releasing in the coming months. What can we expect?
I can't really talk about it yet. So we've done a lot of work. We're really tired. This report doesn't write itself, but what the report reflects is the evidence that we've been given. And so all those testimonies go in to understanding what's happened in this state and how to rectify that. So we're looking at land, sea and waters. The final report is also looking at education, health, housing and economic prosperity. We've done child protection and criminal justice, and people can get online and access those reports. But it's a lot, and we're finalising that now. Can't really speak about the recommendations, but you can tell where the evidence takes you if you followed the Commission.
Yeah, well, we're looking forward to that. Just before I let you go, we've heard and seen a huge national conversation about truth-telling, makarata, about what sort of mechanisms could be at play on the national stage. What do you think needs to happen?
I think there can never be enough truth-telling. I think we need to continue to truth-tell, and whether that's nationally, individually in states, in communities, I think it needs to be heard. The way we heal is by telling our stories, reconciling with the past and coming together as a nation. I think that's the only way we can do this and have a just and fair future for Aboriginal people within Australia.
Deputy Chair of the Yoorrook Commission, Sue-Ann Hunter, thank you so much for your time this morning. We really do appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan.